Okay, what I'm going to do in this short video is give you some background information and everything that you are going to require, where you're going to find things and what is needed to be able to complete the evaluation for your research project. So, agenda. Everyone is going to get a package of materials and I will show you where you will find everything related to those, and I'm going to run you through the basic requirements of the evaluation as well. Okay. So I'm in the public drive. Go into my folder. In there you will find the research project folder and you will find another folder, surprise surprise, called evaluation. I would strongly suggest that you copy that and paste it to the hard drive of your laptop so that you have access to all of these materials yourself. Now, the first thing that I want to go through with you is the information relating to the external assessment. So it's about halfway down here. Just open up that document. Okay, this is the first document that you've got in your package. It just gives you the basic information that we are provided from the SACE board with regards to what is required for the evaluation. The evaluation you need to know is 30% of your overall grade. It's also the externally assessed component, which means that once you submit it to me, I give it a grade, it goes off to the SACE board and it is then remarked. My grades and the moderator's grades are compared to see how close they are. If they are within tolerance, my grade will stand. If they are not within tolerance, they will go to a third marker, and then through a process of moderation, you will be given a, not really an average, but you'll be given a grade that is reflective of all three of those markers looking at your work. So what you actually need to present for the external assessment or for the evaluation is a 1650 word piece of written work. You're all doing research project B, it must be a written piece. Within that, you are going to be asked to make a series of judgments about the research processes that you used and the research outcome that you produced. So your research outcome is task 2 that you have completed. Task 1 was the folio, task 2 was the outcome, task 3 is the evaluation. So, as I said, 1500 words. Within that 1650, 150 of those words are simply going to be a abstract or a summary of everything that you've done. There is then 1500 words to play with that needs to cover these 3 dot points here. So you're going to evaluate the usefulness of the research processes that you used specific to your research question. You are going to evaluate the decisions that you made in response to the challenges and or opportunities that you had specific to your research processes that you used. You are going to evaluate the quality of the research outcome that you produced, so your task 2. Finally, your work needs to be organised so that your information is coherent and that you communicate your ideas accurately and appropriately. You are going to prepare a written summary of this of the research question and the research outcome to a maximum of 150 words, and that is assessed. That is the abstract or the summary that goes right at the very top of your work. And you need to understand that the people that are marking your work at the SACE board for task 3 will not see, will not have accessed, and will not be aware of what you produced for task 1 and task 2. The only component really that you have to let them know what you did is within this 150 words. So it needs to be very well thought out. It's like the blurb on the back of a novel, okay? It needs to let the reader know what to expect, what's going to happen, what your findings and things were. We'll talk more about that in depth later. Your actual evaluation must be presented in written form to a maximum of 1500 words, excluding that 150, so 1650 in total. You can include visual material, for example, photographs, diagrams, screen captures, graphs, whatever you want, but it must be integrated into your written text. If you are talking about specific websites that you're going to screen capture and put in, if you are referencing particular pieces of data or information, or a particular survey or something that you did, then your work needs to be in text referenced as well. The following specific features of the assessment design criteria for this subject are assessed, so E1, E2 and E3. Now that makes it pretty simple to split. S3, the synthesis, is about how you communicate and how well you write your work. But that leaves you 500 words to focus on E1, 500 words to focus on E2, and 500 words to focus on E3. And for that reason, they then become the subheadings within your evaluation. So we'll split these up in further videos. There will be a video that relates to E1 up here, where you evaluate the usefulness of the research processes used specific to the research question. Within that, you will be making judgments about the effectiveness of processes to collect your information as part of your research. You'll talk about things like qualitative and quantitative research practices. You'll talk about practical experiments that you might have done. You'll talk about fieldwork. You'll talk about surveys. You'll talk about interviews that you might have done. You'll talk about emails. You'll talk about both passive and active online research. So if you've been involved with Facebook groups or interacting with other users through Reddit threads, that kind of thing. Okay, so they will all be spoken about in E1. E2, where you evaluate the decisions made in response to challenges and or opportunities, is where you will make judgments about your actions when faced with challenges and opportunities while using your various research processes. So things like surveys, you'll talk about the challenges that you might have had in finding a particular target group to be able to respond to your survey. You might talk about an opportunity that you had when you got a response from a university professor, leading you to some further research ideas that you hadn't previously thought of, etc. You draw conclusions about the effect of those actions on your research outcome as well. In E3, you evaluate the quality of the research outcome, and that's where you make judgments about what you came up with in your findings. It will focus on the significance of your findings, the particular features that influence the overall value and worth of your research outcome. For example, if you've only used 2 or 3 references within your outcome and you've relied very heavily upon one particular source, then that's going to have an influence on your findings, and that is where you would talk about what that might have affected as far as the quality of your research goes. You'll also talk there about the extent to which your question has been resolved. So you might have been able to resolve it in a partial aspect, not all of it might be resolved, but you might be much more happy with how you answered one particular part of the question rather than another, etc. We'll talk about that further where we talk about E3. Finally, for the abstract and across the entire piece, you're also graded on S3, which is about organising your information coherently and communicating your ideas accurately and appropriately. So you have a copy of that in the package of information that I have provided you with. The next thing that I would like you to have a look at in this folder is your evaluation scaffold. I believe that's this one up here. So let's open that up. Okay, so here I've provided you with a scaffold which you can use. Please save obviously to your laptop yourself. Change the name of it so that it is yours. Notice that in the top of it up here, this will be your header. It should have your SACE number, it should have your initials. It should also have assessment type 3 evaluation in it somewhere. However you save it, that's fine, but that's the information that needs to be within the header of the document. It's then set up so that your 150 word summary is the first part that your readers will see. As I said, moderators don't see the rest of your work when they are reading your evaluation. So this is where you give a brief overview to somebody who has, as it says there, no idea about what you've done because they haven't seen your folio or your outcome, and that's the first part there. Then we come down here to the 1500 word evaluation. E1, use the performance standard as your subheading. Evaluation of research processes. In this, you're going to evaluate 2 or 3 of the different processes. Talk about that more in that video. Underneath the subheading for E2, evaluation of decisions made in responses to challenge and on opportunities. Here you're going to talk about 2 or 3 of the decisions made. In E3, you're going to talk about the quality of your research outcome. Finally, you're going to include a word count at the end for this 1500 words, and you're going to include a bibliography if you have spoken about a particular website or a particular survey, or you have screen captured or used other types of inserts within your work at all. Then they will need to be referenced and you'll need to provide a bibliography. So that's the next page within your package. Next in here you will find that there is a document down here called Research Language and Key Terms. This is the next coloured page within your package. I have provided you with a, what do you call it? God, I can't even think. I've provided you with a reference for valid, for credible, and for reliable. So if something is valid, it is having a sound basic in logical fact. If something is credible, it is able to be believed, it is convincing. If something is reliable, it is consistently good in quality or performance. Please note that they are not interchangeable. You need to use the correct term in the correct context. I've then provided you with a range of the types of language that I would expect to see within your evaluation and a meaning for each of those. So we've got argue, assert, assume, claim, conclude, etc., etc. Then I've got a whole series of sentence starters, connectors, and helpful ideas. So if you're like, I just don't know how to start this, have a look through the couple of pages of this document, see what sentence starters there are that might help you just to get you writing the very first paragraph. A key finding in the area of has been, the second key finding is, in addition to this, it's been found primary research consisting of, so on and so forth. Then we've got other terms, but again, make sure you know what they mean, please, and that you use them in the correct context. So we've got things like qualitative and quantitative, we've got literary reviews, we've got methodology, we've got sample sizes, credibility, reliability, and validity. We've got analysis of, we've got summaries, we've got another points of views, arguments, etc. You must discuss the limitations of your research. That could include things like, for example, because the survey sample group consisted of only people within the 16 to 20 year age grouping, it must be remembered that these figures may not reflect the views of the wider community. That is talking about limitations of your research. Things like if you have relied upon government websites, they might be good for, data, but they might not be good if you're looking at, the amount of water that goes down the Murray River. They might be good for looking at data within that topic, but they wouldn't be any use for talking and understanding about how people's lives are impacted by floods within the area. So you've got to think about the limitations within some of the research processes that you used as well, okay? So that's the next page in what you have been provided with. Then at the top up here is 100 plus research language words, and that's simply a couple of pages. Again, if you're looking for terminology that demonstrates your understanding of research, there is a whole range of terms that you can use there, but again, please make sure that you are using them correctly and that you understand the definition of each of those as well. All right, finally, to help you get started and thinking about what you need to do for E1, the next document that I have provided you with is, I believe it's this one, the E1 Planner. Yep, okay. So what I want you to do with this one, evaluation of the research processes used specific to the research question. Now you could have done all different types of research processes, but I know that most of you have stuck pretty much to internet-based types of research. The internet by itself is not a research process. It is a tool that you use to conduct research, but a variety of different types of research. Some of the research that's conducted online is archival, where you're looking for like things like news articles, and you're looking through things like Google Scholar for journal articles, things that have been published. Another type of internet-based research might be where you are interacting with people through Facebook groups or through Reddit, etc. Another type of internet-based research might be where you're using the internet to access documentaries or films or YouTube groups or TikToks, all kinds of various things, TED Talks, for example. You need to be specific in talking about the different types of processes that you used on the internet, not just saying internet research, okay? Identify what it is. So give me an example down here, and it might be, you know, the TED Talk, it might be the documentary that I found, it might be the Anti-Cancer Council website, it might be the Beyond Blue Foundation website, whatever it happens to be. Over here, make a quick brainstorm of 3 or 4 different things that were positive about that particular type of research. Make a quick brainstorm of 3 or 4 things that were negative about that type of research. Then you might have some specialist information. You might have been able to contact someone who has expert knowledge about your topic. Give me the example or give me the information about that. Give me the positives, give me the negatives. If you conducted an interview, really briefly, who, with, and what was it, etc. Give me the positives, give me the negatives. If you conducted a survey, give me the positives, give me the negatives. Other research processes, and you can expand these tables as much as you need or as much as you want. Give me the negatives and the positives, okay? Again, a few more useful terms to use, things like archival research, where you might have accessed a whole range of documents through Google Scholar. Primary sources that you used, identify the primary sources. Yours might be a survey, it might be an interview, it might be an email communication. You might have watched an interview conducted with someone on your topic. Secondary sources might be, you know, newspaper articles that you found that relate to your topic, etc. Anecdotal evidence, you might have found an interview with someone who was talking about their experiences. Qualitative information, so this is written text type stuff, as opposed to quantitative information where you might have used Australian Bureau of Statistics data. Credibility, you might be able to identify that 1 or 2 of your sources is much more credible than others. Reliability, you might have questions over the reliability of the you know, as I said, the government websites and their relation to your topic. You know, you might have questions over government bias, because each of the governments that we have their own agendas, and that's the type of information that they will put up on the web. The validity and the authority behind, you know, the information that you have found. If you've got anything in your head about any of those topics, make yourself a note so that you can refer back to it when it comes to talking about E1. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for the moment, because the next video is going to relate specifically to E1 and what you need to complete for that. All right, thank you.